When Farida, a broke Kenyan woman with an abusive father forcing her into marriage, overheard Jae-Sung, Chicago's most dangerous Korean-Mafia boss, telling his associate he'd pay anything for a surrogate to carry his heir, she saw her only escape. She approached the man everyone feared, offered her womb for his child and her silence for her freedom, and they shook hands on a contract that should have ended after 9 months. But the night he wrapped his handkerchief around her bleeding finger, something shifted, and by the time those 2 pink lines appeared on the pregnancy test showing she was carrying his twins, they'd broken every rule. She'd fallen for her employer, he'd chosen her over his family's empire, and now his cousin was coming to take everything, including the babies in her life. The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor, and Farida's heart stopped. She stood frozen in the private lounge of the Grandview Hotel, staring at the most dangerous man in Chicago. Jae-Sung didn't even glance at the broken glass. His dark eyes stayed locked on the trembling waiter who had bumped into him. The room went silent. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone knew what he could do. "Leave us," Jae-Sung said quietly to his men. The waiter ran. The guards left. And somehow, Farida found herself alone with the Korean-Mafia boss, her cleaning cart the only thing between them. "You," he said, looking directly at her. "Clean this up." Farida's hands shook as she knelt down to pick up the glass pieces. She had worked at this hotel for 2 years, always keeping her head down, always staying invisible. Her father made sure she handed over every paycheck. He made sure she never had enough money to escape. But she had learned to listen, to watch, to survive. "Careful," Jae-Sung said as a piece of glass cut her finger. Before she could move, he was kneeling beside her, pulling out a handkerchief from his expensive suit. He wrapped it around her finger, his touch surprisingly gentle. Farida looked up and met his eyes. Something electric passed between them, something that made her skin tingle and her breath catch. "Thank you," she whispered. He stood up quickly, as if her touch had burned him. "What's your name?" "Farida." "You're not from here." "Kenya," she said, standing and gathering the broken glass. "I came with my father 5 years ago." Jae-Sung watched her with an intensity that made her feel exposed, like he could see every secret she kept hidden. "You work late." "Every night," Farida said. "My father takes my money. I need the extra shifts." She didn't know why she told him that. Maybe because everyone said Jae-Sung was dangerous, but his eyes held a loneliness she recognized. Or maybe because she was just tired of pretending everything was fine. "Interesting," he said, then walked away. Farida thought that would be the end of it. But 3 nights later, he came back. This time, she was restocking the towels on the 15th floor when she heard voices in the presidential suite. The door was slightly open. She knew she should walk away, but something made her stop. "I don't care what you want." Jae-Sung's voice was cold. "I need an heir. My family won't stop until I produce one." "Then get married," another man said. "Marriage means weakness. It gives enemies something to target. I need a surrogate, someone who will carry the child and then disappear." Farida's heart pounded. She pressed herself against the wall, barely breathing. "That's not exactly legal," the other man said. "I'll make it legal. I'll pay whatever it costs. Just find someone desperate enough to agree." The next morning, Farida's father grabbed her arm at breakfast. His breath smelled like alcohol. His grip left bruises. "You're getting married," he announced. Farida dropped her coffee cup. "What?" Rashid agreed. "He'll pay good money for you. The wedding is in 2 weeks." Rashid was 50 years old. Mean. Violent. Everyone in their community knew he had hurt his first wife so badly she ran away in the night. "No," Farida said. "I won't do it." Her father's hand cracked across her face. "You'll do what I tell you." Farida tasted blood, but she didn't cry. She had stopped crying years ago. That night at work, her face still swollen, Farida made a decision. She had spent 5 years being afraid, 5 years letting her father control her life. But she was 24 years old, and she was done. She found Jae-Sung in the hotel bar. He sat alone in the corner, drinking whiskey and looking at his phone. When she approached, his guards moved to block her. "Let her through," Jae-Sung said, recognizing her immediately. Farida sat down across from him without being invited. Her hands trembled in her lap, but she kept her voice steady. "I heard what you said. About needing a surrogate. His expression didn't change. You were listening to a private conversation. I was, she admitted. And I want to do it. I'll carry your baby. Now his eyebrows rose. You don't know what you're asking for. I know exactly what I'm asking for. You need someone desperate. I need to escape my father. He's forcing me to marry a terrible man in 2 weeks. You want a child with no complications. I want money and protection. We both get what we need. Jae-Sung studied her bruised face. Something flickered in his eyes. Anger, maybe. Your father did that? Yes. And you think having my child will be easier? I think anything is easier than staying here. The silence stretched between them. Farida held his gaze, refusing to look away. She had nothing left to lose. This isn't a game, Jae-Sung said finally. I'm not a good man, Farida. People fear me for a reason. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. Maybe, Farida said. But I'm more afraid of staying where I am. Something in her words must have reached him because Jae-Sung leaned forward. If we do this, there are rules. You'll live in my house. You'll be protected, but you'll also be watched. After the baby is born, you take your money and leave. No contact. No claims. No regrets. That's fine. And during the pregnancy, you do exactly what the doctors say. No arguments. No exceptions. Agreed? You understand this is a business arrangement. Nothing more. But the way his eyes lingered on her lips suggested otherwise. The way his fingers drummed on the table told her he was not as calm as he pretended. Farida felt it too. That strange pull between them. That dangerous attraction that made her skin warm and her pulse race. Business, she repeated, even as her body leaned slightly toward his. Jae-Sung's jaw tightened. My lawyer will draw up the papers. Tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, room 1501. Come alone. Tell no one. Okay. And Farida, he said as she stood to leave, once you sign those papers, there's no going back. You'll belong to me until that baby is born. The way he said belong sent shivers down her spine. Not from fear, but from something far more complicated. The next 24 hours crawled by. Farida worked her shift in a daze. She packed a small bag and hid it in her locker. She didn't tell her father. She didn't say goodbye. At 9 o'clock sharp, she knocked on room 1501. Jae-Sung opened the door himself. He had removed his jacket. His white shirt was unbuttoned at the collar. He looked less like a mafia boss and more like a man who hadn't slept in days. Come in, he said. A lawyer sat at the table with thick stacks of papers. For the next hour, they explained everything. Medical procedures, financial arrangements, legal protections. Farida signed her name over and over until her hand cramped. Done, the lawyer said finally, packing up his briefcase. Congratulations to you both. After he left, Farida and Jae-Sung stood alone in the suite. The air felt thick with possibility and danger. My plane leaves for Los Angeles in an hour, Jae-Sung said. Pack whatever you need. We're not coming back to Chicago. I'm already packed. He smiled for the first time. A real smile that transformed his entire face. Prepared? I like that. I've been preparing to run for 5 years. Jae-Sung stepped closer. So close she could smell his cologne. So close she could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. You're not running anymore, Farida. You're walking straight into a different kind of cage. Then I guess you better make it a nice cage. His hand came up to touch her bruised cheek, so gentle it made her want to cry. Anyone who touches you again will regret it. That's a promise. Farida believed him. 2 hours later, she sat in a private jet, flying over America toward a new life. Jae-Sung sat across from her, watching her with those intense eyes. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them looked away. When they landed in Los Angeles at midnight, a car took them to a mansion in the hills. It was bigger than anything Farida had ever imagined. White stone, huge windows, gardens that seemed to go on forever. Welcome home, Jae-Sung said, leading her inside. Home. The word felt strange and wonderful. A housekeeper showed Farida to her room. It had a massive bed, a private bathroom, and a balcony overlooking the city lights. After the woman left, Farida stood at the window, hardly believing this was real. A soft knock made her turn. Jae-Sung stood in the doorway, still dressed, still watching her. Everything okay? Yes, Farida said. Thank you. He nodded but didn't leave. The tension between them crackled like lightning. They had made a business deal. They had signed papers. But the way he looked at her had nothing to do with business. Good night, Farida, he said finally. Good night. He turned to go, then stopped. That man your father wanted you to marry. Rashid. He won't bother you again. I'll make sure of it. Before Farida could ask what he meant, Jae-Sung was gone, closing the door softly behind him. She lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, wondering what she had just done. She had traded one form of captivity for another. But somehow, this felt different. This felt like the beginning of something that would change her forever. In his own room down the hall, Jae-Sung couldn't sleep either. He told himself this was just business, just a necessary arrangement to satisfy his family's demands. But the memory of Farida's brave eyes and trembling hands kept replaying in his mind. He had made a terrible mistake, not in bringing her here, but in thinking he could keep this purely professional. The attraction between them was undeniable, dangerous, forbidden, and it was only their first night together. Farida woke to sunlight streaming through windows bigger than her entire bedroom back in Chicago. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality crashed back. She was in Los Angeles, in a mafia boss's mansion, about to become a surrogate mother. She touched her stomach, still flat, still hers. Not for much longer. A knock on the door made her jump. Miss Farida, breakfast is ready, a soft voice called. Downstairs, the dining room could seat 20 people, but only one chair was occupied. Jae-Sung sat at the head of the table, reading something on his tablet. He wore all black today. It made him look even more dangerous. Sit, he said without looking up. Farida took the chair closest to him. A woman brought out eggs, fresh fruit, toast and juice. More food than Farida usually ate in 2 days. Eat everything, Jae-Sung said, finally meeting her eyes. The doctor comes this afternoon. You need to be healthy. I am healthy. You're too thin. Your father didn't feed you properly. The observation was blunt but true. Farida picked up her fork, suddenly aware of how closely he was watching her. Do you always stare at people while they eat? Only when I need to make sure they actually do it. Despite everything, Farida almost smiled. I'm not a child. No, Jae-Sung agreed, his gaze traveling slowly over her face. You're definitely not. The way he said it made heat bloom in her cheeks. This was supposed to be business. Professional. But the air between them felt charged with something that had nothing to do with contracts. Tell me about Kenya, he said suddenly. Farida paused. Why? Because you're living in my house. I should know something about you besides your name. So Farida told him. About Nairobi, where she was born. About her mother who died when she was 10. About how her father changed after that, became cruel and started drinking. About the day he announced they were moving to America for better opportunities, but really just wanted to escape his debts. Jae-Sung listened without interrupting. When she finished, he said, Your father is a coward. Yes, and you're nothing like him. The compliment caught her off guard. How do you know? Because a coward would never have walked up to me in that bar and demanded what they wanted. Their eyes met and held. Farida felt that pull again. That dangerous attraction that made her want to lean closer, to touch him, to find out if his lips were as soft as they looked. The doorbell rang, shattering the moment. Dr. Patricia Chun was a small woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. She sat up in one of the guest rooms that had been converted into a medical suite. Farida sat on the examination table while the doctor explained the process. We'll start with tests, Dr. Chun said. Blood work, health screening, psychological evaluation. Then, if everything looks good, we'll begin hormone treatments to prepare your body. The actual procedure will happen in about 6 weeks. 6 weeks. A month and a half before her life changed forever. Jae-Sung stood against the wall, arms crossed, listening to every word. When the doctor asked Farida to change into a gown for the examination, he didn't move. You need to leave, Dr. Chun said firmly. I'm staying. Mr. Jae-Sung, this is a private medical examination. Farida expected him to argue, but he looked at her instead. Do you want me to go? The question surprised her. He was giving her a choice. Yes, she said softly. Please. He left without another word. The examination took an hour. Dr. Chin was thorough and gentle, explaining everything as she went. At the end, she smiled. "You're perfectly healthy, Farida. This should go smoothly. And after the baby is born, you'll recover normally. Your body will return to how it was before. You can have your own children someday if you want." Someday. The word felt both far away and impossibly close. That night, Farida couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet, too big. She wandered downstairs in her pajamas, thinking everyone would be asleep. But light glowed from under a door she hadn't noticed before. She pushed it open and found a library. Books lined every wall from floor to ceiling. And there, in a leather chair by the window, sat Jae-Sung. He had changed into dark pants and a simple black shirt. His feet were bare. He looked younger somehow, less dangerous. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "The bed is too soft. I'm not used to it. Come here." Farida crossed the room. Jae-Sung gestured to the chair across from him, but she chose to sit on the floor instead, leaning against the bookshelf. It felt more comfortable, more real. "What are you reading?" she asked. He showed her the cover. Poetry, Korean poetry translated into English. "My mother used to read these to me before she died." "How old were you?" 8. "I'm sorry. Don't be. She's the reason I survived as long as I did. She taught me to be strong, to never show weakness." He paused, looking at the book. "But sometimes I wonder what kind of man I would have become if she had lived." The vulnerability in his voice made Farida's chest ache. Maybe the same man, just happier. Maybe. They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, Los Angeles sparkled like scattered diamonds. Inside, something shifted between them. Something gentle and dangerous all at once. "Read to me," Farida said impulsively. Jae-Sung's eyebrows rose. "You want me to read poetry to you?" "Yes." He studied her for a long moment, then began to read. His voice was deep and smooth, turning the words into music. Farida closed her eyes and listened, feeling safer than she had in years. When she opened her eyes again, dawn was breaking. She had fallen asleep on the library floor, and someone had covered her with a blanket. Jae-Sung was gone, but the book lay beside her, marked at the page where he had stopped reading. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. Farida took her hormone medications, met with Dr. Chun, explored the huge house and gardens, and every night she found herself in the library with Jae-Sung. They talked about everything. His childhood and soul before moving to America. Her dreams of opening a bakery someday. His complicated relationship with his family who saw him as a tool, not a person. Her love of thunderstorms and old movies. "You're not what I expected," Jae-Sung admitted one night. "What did you expect? Someone scared? Someone who would hide in her room and avoid me? Are you disappointed?" "No," he said quietly. "I'm terrified." "Of what?" But he didn't answer. Just looked at her with those dark, intense eyes that made her skin tingle and her heart race. The touching started innocently. A hand on her back as he guided her through doorways. His fingers brushing hers when he handed her a cup of tea, standing close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Each touch lingered a little longer. Each glance held a little more meaning. One afternoon, Farida was arranging flowers in the garden when she felt Jae-Sung behind her. "You're good at that," he said. "My mother taught me." She loved flowers. He reached around her to touch a red rose, and suddenly they were pressed together, his chest against her back, his breath warm on her neck. Neither of them moved. The moment stretched, heavy with possibility. "Farida," he said, his voice rough. "Yes. This is becoming complicated. I know. We shouldn't let it. I know that too." But neither of them stepped away. 3 weeks into her stay, a massive thunderstorm hit Los Angeles. Farida loved the sound of rain, but that night the thunder was so loud it shook the windows. She lay in bed, trying to sleep, when suddenly she was back in Chicago, back in her father's apartment, his hand around her throat, his voice screaming that she was worthless, ungrateful, nothing. She woke up gasping, tears streaming down her face. Before she could think, she was running down the hallway to Jae-Sung's room. She knocked frantically, not caring that it was 2 a.m. He opened the door immediately, shirtless, his hair messy from sleep. "Farida, what's wrong?" I had a nightmare. About my father. I just needed to know I'm really here. That I'm really safe. Without a word, Jae-Sung pulled her into his arms. She pressed her face against his bare chest, breathing in his scent, letting his warmth chase away the fear. His hand stroked her hair, gentle and soothing. "You're safe," he whispered. "I promise you're safe." Farida looked up at him. His face was inches from hers. She could see the concern in his eyes, the tension in his jaw, the way he was fighting to maintain control. "Jae-Sung," she breathed. That was all it took. His mouth came down on hers, soft and searching. Farida's hand slid up his chest to his shoulders, pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, becoming urgent and desperate. All the weeks of tension, of stolen glances and accidental touches, poured into this one perfect moment. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jae-Sung rested his forehead against hers. "This is a mistake." "Probably. We have a contract. Rules." "I know. If we do this, everything changes." Farida cupped his face in her hands. Maybe everything was already changing, and we just didn't want to admit it. He kissed her again, slower this time, deeper. Like he was trying to memorize the taste of her. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark with desire and something that looked like fear. "Stay with me tonight," he said. "Just sleep. I want to hold you." So Farida climbed into his enormous bed. Jae-Sung wrapped his arms around her from behind, pulling her against his warm body. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, they lay tangled together, no longer pretending this was just business. "Are you still scared?" Farida whispered. "Terrified," Jae-Sung admitted. "But not of my enemies or my family or any of the usual things." "What then?" His arms tightened around her. "Of how much I'm starting to need you." Farida turned in his embrace until they were face to face. "I need you too." They kissed again, gentle and sweet, a promise of everything they weren't supposed to want but couldn't resist. When they finally fell asleep, they stayed wrapped around each other, two lonely people who had found something unexpected. Something that felt dangerously like love. The pregnancy test came back positive 6 weeks later. 2 pink lines that changed everything and nothing all at once. Dr. Chin smiled. "Congratulations. You're going to have a baby." Farida stared at the test, her hand trembling. Inside her body, a tiny life was beginning. Jae-Sung's child. The realization hit her like a wave. This was real now. Absolutely, terrifyingly real. Jae-Sung stood beside her, his face unreadable. But his hand found hers and squeezed. Hard, like he was holding on to something precious. "I want to see her every week," he told Dr. Chen. "Every test, every appointment, every ultrasound." "Of course." After the doctor left, Jae-Sung and Farida sat in the medical room, still holding hands, processing what had just happened. "How do you feel?" he asked. Scared, excited, confused. Farida looked at him. "How do you feel?" "Like my entire world just shifted, and I'm not sure which way is up anymore. Since that stormy night 3 weeks ago, everything between them had changed. They hadn't made love, but they had spent every night in the same bed, wrapped around each other, sharing kisses that left them breathless and aching for more. They had both agreed to wait, to be careful. But the pregnancy made everything more complicated. "The baby is really here," Farida whispered, touching her still-flat stomach. "Our baby," Jae-Sung corrected softly. The word, our, hung in the air between them, full of meaning they weren't supposed to explore. That evening, Jae-Sung came to her room with a small box. "I got you something." Inside was a delicate gold necklace with a small pendant shaped like the continent of Africa. "So you never forget where you came from," he said, fastening it around her neck. His fingers lingered on her skin, tracing her collarbone. Farida turned to face him. "Thank you." They were so close, she could count his eyelashes. His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing across her lips. "I want to take you somewhere. Away from this house. Away from all the watching and waiting." "Where?" "San Francisco. Just for the weekend. We can be normal people for 2 days." So they flew north to a city of hills and fog. Jae-Sung had reserved a suite overlooking the bay. For 48 hours, they pretended they were just a man and a woman falling in love. Not a mafia boss and a surrogate, They walked across the Golden Gate Bridge, Jae-Sung's arm around her shoulders. They ate fresh seafood at Fisherman's Wharf. They rode the cable cars and laughed when tourists asked them to take their picture. "You look happy," Farida observed. "I'm happy. When I'm with you, I forget about everything else." That night, in their hotel room, Jae-Sung pulled her into his arms. They swayed to music only they could hear, dancing in the dim light. His hands rested on her hips, her arms wrapped around his neck. "Farida," he said against her hair, "I need to tell you something." "What?" "This stopped being just a contract for me weeks ago. Maybe it never was. From the moment you walked up to me in that bar, you've been all I can think about." Her heart pounded. "Jae-Sung, I'm falling in love with you. And I know that's not part of our agreement. I know it makes everything impossibly complicated. But I can't pretend anymore." Farida pulled back to look at him. His face was open, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. This dangerous man, who everyone feared, was looking at her like she was his entire world. "I'm falling in love with you too," she whispered. "I think I started falling that first night when you wrapped your handkerchief around my finger." He kissed her then, deep and passionate, pouring everything he felt into it. When he lifted her into his arms and carried her to the bed, she didn't stop him. When his hands explored her body with reverent touches, she welcomed them. When they finally came together, it was tender and passionate and perfect. Afterwards, they lay tangled in the sheets, Farida's head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "What happens now?" she asked. "I don't know, but I know I can't let you go. Contract or no contract, you're mine now." The possessiveness in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel cherished, protected, wanted. "And you're mine," she said back. They spent the rest of the weekend exploring each other in the city. Jae-Sung showed her a side of himself she suspected few people ever saw. He was funny, thoughtful, surprisingly gentle. In Seattle the following week, they walked through Pike Place Market. Jae-Sung bought her flowers from every vendor until she couldn't carry them all. They ate fresh donuts and drank coffee and kissed in the rain. "I could get used to this," Farida said, licking sugar off her fingers. Jae-Sung caught her hand and kissed each finger clean. "So could I." But reality was waiting back in Los Angeles. The trouble started with a phone call. Jae-Sung answered it in Korean, his face going hard and cold. When he hung up, he looked at Farida with worry in his eyes. "My cousin Sang-woo is coming. He's heard about you. Is that bad?" "Sang-woo wants to take over the family business. He sees me as competition. And now he sees you as a weakness he can exploit." Sang-woo arrived the next day. He was younger than Jae-Sung, handsome in a cruel way, with cold eyes that made Farida's skin crawl. He looked at her like she was an insect. "So this is the African woman carrying our heir," he said in perfect English. "Interesting choice, cousin." "Farida is under my protection," Jae-Sung said, his voice dangerous. "Remember that." "Of course. I'm just here to ensure the family's interests are being protected. After all, this child will carry our bloodline." He stayed for dinner, making subtle comments that felt like threats. Farida noticed how Jae-Sung positioned himself between them, how his hand never left her back, how he watched Sang-woo like a predator watching a rival. After Sang-woo left, Jae-Sung pulled Farida into his arms. "I won't let him hurt you. I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about you. Don't be. I've been dealing with men like Sang-woo my whole life." But that night, Farida overheard Jae-Sung on the phone, speaking rapid Korean. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. He was giving orders, protecting her, going to war with his own family. 2 weeks later, Dr. Chin confirmed what Farida already suspected. "Your hormone levels are unusually high. Let me do an ultrasound." On the screen, 2 tiny heartbeats flickered, 2 little shapes growing inside her. "Twins," Dr. Chin announced. "You're having twins." Farida couldn't breathe. Jae-Sung's hand gripped hers, so tight it almost hurt. "Twins," he repeated, wonder in his voice. That night, he knelt before her and pressed kisses to her still small belly. 2 babies, 2 perfect little lives. "Are you disappointed?" Farida asked. "You only wanted one heir." "Disappointed?" "Farida, I'm terrified and thrilled, and so in love with you I can barely think straight. How could I be disappointed?" He made love to her that night with a tenderness that brought tears to her eyes. Every touch said what words couldn't, that she mattered, that this mattered, that they were creating something beautiful from what started as a business deal. But danger was circling closer. Jae-Sung's enemies learned about Farida and the babies. Cars started following them. Strange men watched the house. Jae-Sung doubled the security, but Farida could see the worry in his eyes. "Maybe I should go somewhere safe," she suggested. "Until the babies are born." "No. I need you close. I need to protect you myself. But what if your enemies use me to get to you? Then I'll destroy anyone who tries." His eyes blazed with determination. "You don't understand, Farida. Before you, I had nothing worth protecting. Just power and money, and a name that means nothing. But now I have you. I have our children. I have something real. And I will burn this entire city down before I let anyone take that from me." His intensity should have frightened her. Instead, it made her feel loved in a way she never had before. One evening, they lay in bed, Farida's growing belly pressed against his side. Jae-Sung told her about his childhood, about his father who cared more about power than family, about his mother who tried to shield him but died too young, about the expectations that crushed him and the violence that shaped him. "I never wanted this life," he admitted, "but I was born into it. And once you're in, there's no getting out." "What if there was?" Farida asked. "What if you could leave? And go where? Do what?" "Anything. Everything. We could take the babies and disappear. Start over somewhere new." Jae-Sung was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Would you want that? To run away with me?" "I'd want anything that means we're together." He kissed her forehead. "Let me think about it." But Sang-woo was already making his move. The next morning, Jae-Sung received a text message that made all the blood drain from his face. Someone had taken photos of Farida and him in San Francisco. In Seattle, walking together, kissing, looking like a couple in love. "Sang-woo is threatening to expose us to the family," Jae-Sung said grimly. "He says you're making me weak, that I'm breaking all the rules by falling in love with a surrogate. What will they do? They'll demand I send you away. And if I refuse, they'll come after you themselves." Farida touched her belly, feeling the tiny lives growing inside. "Then we fight." "You don't understand what that means." "I understand perfectly. You've protected me this whole time. Now let me protect you. Let me stand beside you instead of behind you." Jae-Sung pulled her close, breathing in her scent. "How did I survive before you?" "Barely," Farida said, making him laugh despite everything. That night, they made plans. They would tell the family the truth, that Jae-Sung was in love with a surrogate, that they were going to raise the twins together, that anyone who had a problem with it would answer to him. It was risky, dangerous, possibly suicidal, but as Farida lay in Jae-Sung's arms, feeling their babies move inside her, she knew it was the only choice. They had found something rare and precious, and they would fight the whole world to keep it. "I love you," Jae-Sung whispered in the dark. "I love you too." Outside, storm clouds gathered. Inside, they held each other, two people against impossible odds, ready to face whatever came next. At 5 months pregnant, Farida's belly had become impossible to hide. The twins were growing strong, kicking her ribs at night and making her laugh with their acrobatics. She had never felt more beautiful or more vulnerable. Jae-Sung couldn't keep his hands off her. He kissed her swollen belly every morning. He talked to the babies in Korean, telling them stories about their mother's bravery. He held her when the pregnancy made her tired and cried with her when hormones made everything feel overwhelming. "You're glowing," he said one morning, tracing the curve of her stomach. "I'm sweating. It's different." He laughed and kissed her. "To me, you're perfect." But their happiness existed in a bubble that was about to burst. The threat came from an unexpected direction. Dongwook ran a rival gang that had been fighting with Jae-Sung's family for years. He was ruthless and smart, and he had learned about Farida and the twins. "We need to leave Los Angeles," Jae-Sung said after a tense phone call with the security team. Dongwook's men have been watching the house. "Where will we go?" "Miami. I have contacts there. We'll be safe while I figure out how to handle this." They left that night, flying across the country under cover of darkness. Jae-Sung's friend, Sung-ho, met them at the airport. He was tall and serious, with kind eyes that reminded Farida of her late mother's brother. "She's the one?" Sung-ho asked in English, looking at Farida. "She's the one," Jae-Sung confirmed. "Then I'll protect her with my life." The safe house was a beautiful beach property with ocean views and high walls. For 2 days, they relaxed. Farida walked barefoot in the sand while Jae-Sung and Sung-ho discussed security. The baby seemed to love the ocean sounds, kicking energetically whenever waves crashed nearby. On the 3rd day, everything went wrong. Farida was shopping at a small market with 2 guards while Jae-Sung met with local contacts. She was examining mangoes when she felt eyes on her. 3 men stood near the entrance, watching her with predatory focus. Her guard noticed too. "We need to leave. Now." But they were already surrounded. 6 more men appeared, blocking the exits. Farida's heart raced as her hands instinctively covered her belly. "Come with us quietly, and no one gets hurt," one man said in accented English. "I'm not going anywhere." He pulled out a gun. That wasn't a request. Farida's guard stepped in front of her, hand on his weapon. For a frozen moment, nobody moved. Then chaos erupted. Gunshots. Screaming. Her guard pushed Farida behind a vegetable stand and returned fire. The second guard grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the back exit. "Run!" he shouted. They burst into an alley. A car screeched around the corner, Dongwook's men inside. Farida ran faster than she thought possible, her pregnant belly making her awkward and slow. Her guard fired at the car, buying them seconds. "This way!" He pulled her into a narrow passage between buildings. They zigzagged through Miami streets, but the men kept coming. Farida's lungs burned. Her legs trembled. The babies kicked furiously, sensing her fear. They emerged onto a busy street. Traffic. People. Safety in numbers. But a hand grabbed Farida from behind, yanking her backward. She screamed and fought, clawing at her attacker's face. Then suddenly he was gone. Jae-Sung had appeared from nowhere, moving like violence itself. He broke the man's arm with a sickening crack and threw him into a wall. 3 more men rushed him. Jae-Sung fought them all, his movements precise and deadly. Sung-ho appeared with more guards, and within minutes, Dongwook's men were either unconscious or fleeing. Jae-Sung ran to Farida, his hands frantically checking her for injuries. "Are you hurt?" "The babies." "We're okay. We're okay." But she was shaking so hard she could barely stand. Jae-Sung lifted her into his arms and carried her to the car. During the drive back to the safe house, he held her against his chest, his heart hammering as hard as hers. "I'm sorry," he kept saying. "I'm so sorry. I should have been there. You saved me. You came. I will always come for you. Always." That night, after Dr. Chin flew in to confirm the babies were unharmed, Jae-Sung refused to leave Farida's side. He lay beside her in bed, his hand protectively over her belly. "I can't lose you," he whispered. "If something had happened today, if Dongwook's men had taken you, I would have torn this city apart to find you." Farida turned to face him. "I was terrified. Not for me, but for them." She touched her belly. "For our babies. For the life we're trying to build." "I know. I know." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "But you're safe now. I swear on everything I have I will keep you safe." They made love that night with desperate intensity, reaffirming that they were alive, together, surviving. Afterwards, Farida cried in his arms, releasing all the fear she had been holding inside. "Take me home," she said. "I want to go back to Los Angeles, to our house. I'm tired of running. Farida, it's not safe. Nowhere is safe. But at least in Los Angeles, we're in familiar territory. And I'm not letting Dongwook or Sangwoo or anyone else control where we live." Jae-Sung studied her face, seeing the strength that first attracted him to her. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." They returned to Los Angeles 2 days later. Jae-Sung tripled the security and personally handled the Dongwook situation in ways he didn't tell Farida about. She didn't ask. Some things were better left unknown. Life returned to something like normal. Farida reached 6 months. The babies grew stronger. Dr. Chin said everything looked perfect. Then her father showed up. Farida was in the garden, reading to her belly, when she heard his voice. "So this is where you've been hiding. She looked up to see him standing at the garden entrance, somehow having gotten past security. He looked older, meaner, drunk as usual. "How did you find me?" Farida asked, standing slowly. "I have my ways. You think you can just disappear. You're my daughter. You owe me." "I owe you nothing." He laughed, a harsh sound that made her skin crawl. "You owe me everything. I fed you, housed you, brought you to America. And this is how you repay me, running off to be some rich man's whore." The word hit like a slap. Before Farida could respond, Jae-Sung appeared from the house, moving with controlled fury. "Who are you?" he asked, though he clearly knew. "I'm her father, and I want compensation for the daughter you stole." "Stole?" "She came to me willingly, escaping from you." Her father's face reddened. "I don't care about your arrangement. I want money, or I go to the authorities. Tell them about your illegal surrogate deal. About how you're keeping an immigrant woman prisoner." Jae-Sung smiled, but it was a predator smile. "You have two choices. Take the money I'm about to offer you and disappear forever. Or refuse and face consequences you cannot imagine. You're threatening me? I'm offering you mercy, which is more than you ever gave your daughter." The two men stared at each other. Farida held her breath, one hand on her belly, feeling the baby's kick. Finally, her father looked away. "How much?" $50,000. Cash. You take it and never contact Farida again. If you break this agreement, if you ever come near her or our children, you will regret it. Do you understand? The greed in her father's eyes was obvious. "Make it 75,000. Done." An hour later, Farida watched her father drive away with a briefcase full of money. She felt nothing. No sadness, no relief. Just a quiet sense of finality. "Are you okay?" Jae-Sung asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "I'm free. Really free now." "Yes, you are." But their troubles were far from over. 2 weeks later, Sang-woo requested a formal family meeting. Jae-Sung knew what was coming. His family had learned the truth about his relationship with Farida, about how the surrogate arrangement had become something much more. The night before the meeting, he held Farida close, breathing in her scent. "They're going to demand I send you away after the birth," he said quietly. "They'll say you're making me weak, that a mafia boss can't be in love with a surrogate. What will you tell them?" "The truth, that I love you, that I'm keeping you and our children. And if they have a problem with that, they can go to hell." Farida kissed him deeply. "Whatever happens, we face it together." "Together," he agreed. The meeting was held at a restaurant the family owned. 10 men sat around a long table, all older than Jae-Sung, all powerful in their own right. Sang-woo sat at the far end, smirking. Jae-Sung stood to address them, his hand in his pocket where he kept a photo of Farida. His anchor, his reason. "I know why you called this meeting," he began. "You want to discuss my relationship with Farida, the woman carrying my children." "It's inappropriate," one elder said. "She's a surrogate, a hired womb. You violated every protocol." "I've fallen in love," Jae-Sung corrected. "Something none of you understand because you see women as property, as tools. But Farida is neither." "You're weak," Sang-woo said, standing. "You've let emotion cloud your judgment. This woman has made you soft, vulnerable, unfit to lead. Or maybe I've finally learned what's worth fighting for. Power, money, fear. Those things are empty. But love, family, those are worth everything." "Sentimental nonsense," the eldest member said. "The girl will give birth. You'll take the children and pay her off as agreed. She'll leave. This discussion is over." "No," Jae-Sung said simply. "I'm keeping her. I'm marrying her. And if you try to take her from me, you'll discover exactly how dangerous I can be." The room erupted in angry voices. Threats, demands, accusations of betrayal. Through it all, Jae-Sung stood firm. "I'm not asking for permission. I'm informing you of my decision. Anyone who has a problem with it can challenge me directly." Sang-woo stood. "Fine. I challenge your right to lead this family. If you choose this woman over us, you're no longer worthy of the position." "Then I choose her." The words hung in the air like thunder. Jae-Sung had just declared war on his own family. He left the meeting and drove straight home to Farida. She was in the nursery they'd been preparing, folding tiny clothes with tears streaming down her face. "I heard," she said. "Sung-ho called me. You chose me over everything." "Of course I did. You're my everything." She walked into his arms, her pregnant belly pressed between them. "What happens now? Now we prepare. They won't let this go easily. Sang-woo will make his move. But I'm ready. We're ready." That night, they lay in bed, the babies kicking up a storm between them. 2 months until they arrived. 2 months to prepare for the war that was coming. "Are you scared?" Farida asked. "Terrified," Jae-Sung admitted, "but also more certain than I've ever been. You and these babies are my future. Not the family. Not the business. You. Promise me something. Anything. Promise that no matter what happens, we stay together. No one separates us." Jae-Sung took her hand and placed it over his heart. "I promise. You're mine, Farida. And I'm yours. Forever." Outside, danger circled. Inside, they held each other, drawing strength from their love, preparing for the battle ahead. At 8 months pregnant, Farida was enormous. The twins had grown so big that Dr. Chin worried about early delivery. Farida couldn't sleep lying down anymore. Her back ached constantly. Her feet had disappeared beneath her belly weeks ago. But she had never been happier. Jae-Sung doted on her completely. He massaged her swollen feet every night. He woke at 3 in the morning to get her strange food cravings. He talked to the babies constantly, telling them about their brave mother. "They're going to love you so much," Farida said one night, watching him press kisses to her belly. "Not as much as I love them. Or you." But their peaceful bubble was about to shatter completely. Sang-woo had spent the past month building support within the family. He spread rumors that Jae-Sung had gone soft, that his love for an African woman had made him weak and dangerous to the organization, that he could no longer be trusted to lead. Sung-ho brought the news one morning. "He's calling for a vote. Tomorrow. Either you step down voluntarily, or they force you out." Jae-Sung didn't look surprised. "And if I refuse both options? Then it gets ugly. Really ugly." Farida, sitting nearby with her feet elevated, felt the babies kick hard. They always seemed to sense when something was wrong. "There's a third option," Jae-Sung said quietly. "I walk away. Leave the family completely. Take Farida and the babies and disappear." "You can't be serious," Sung-ho said. "You'd give up everything." "Everything." Jae-Sung looked at Farida, his eyes soft. "Or I'd gain everything that matters and lose what doesn't." That night, Jae-Sung made a series of phone calls. He liquidated secret accounts. He transferred properties into shell corporations. He prepared to do what no one in his family had ever done before. "Leave." "Are you sure about this?" Farida asked, watching him work. "I've never been more sure of anything. My whole life, I've been trapped by expectations, by duty, by fear. But you taught me what freedom feels like, what love feels like. Why would I go back to that cage? Your family will never let you just walk away." "I know. That's why we need to be smart about this." The next morning, Jae-Sung called an emergency family meeting. But this time, it was on his terms. In a neutral location, with witnesses, 20 family members gathered in a private room at a downtown hotel. Sang-woo sat in the front, confident and smug. The elders looked stern and disapproving. Jae-Sung stood before them all, relaxed and powerful. "I know what you want. You want me gone. You think I've become a liability because I fell in love." "It's not about love," Sang-woo interrupted. "It's about loyalty. You chose an outsider over family." "No. I chose happiness over misery. I chose love over power. I chose life over the death you all call business." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "So here's what's going to happen," Jae-Sung continued. "I'm stepping down. Effective immediately. I'm leaving the organization. You can have the territories, the businesses, the power. All of it." Sang-woo's eyes gleamed with triumph. Finally, some sense. "But," Jae-Sung said, his voice hardening, "if anyone comes after me, after Farida, or after my children, I will destroy you. I have copies of every illegal transaction this family has made in the past 10 years. Every bribe, every deal, every body. If anything happens to my family, those documents go to the FBI, the DEA, and every major news organization in the country. The room went dead silent. "You're threatening us," one elder asked. "I'm protecting what's mine. You leave us alone, we leave you alone. Simple." "This is treason," Sang-woo snarled, standing. "You can't just walk away." "Watch me." Sang-woo pulled a gun. Several other men did the same. But Sung-ho and 4 other loyal guards had already positioned themselves around Jae-Sung, weapons drawn. "You really want to start a war right here?" Jae-Sung asked calmly. "In a hotel full of witnesses? With federal agents I've already tipped off waiting in the lobby." It was a bluff, but a convincing one. Sang-woo's hand trembled with rage. "You'll regret this," he said. "The only thing I regret is wasting so many years in this miserable business. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a pregnant woman at home who needs me." Jae-Sung walked out, Sung-ho and his guards flanking him. Behind them, chaos erupted in angry shouts and accusations. They made it to the car, made it out of the parking garage, made it halfway home before Jae-Sung's phone rang. "It's the house," Sung-ho said grimly. "There's been a breach." Jae-Sung's blood turned to ice. "Farida!" He drove faster than he ever had, running red lights, weaving through traffic. His phone rang again. This time it was Farida, her voice tight with pain. "Jae-Sung, something's wrong. The babies are coming. Now. It's too early." "I know. The stress. The contractions started an hour ago. They won't stop. I'm 5 minutes away. Hold on, baby. Just hold on." But when they arrived at the house, they found Sang-woo's men waiting. 6 of them, blocking the entrance. "Step aside," Jae-Sung said, his voice deadly. "Can't do that. Sang-woo wants to talk. My woman is in labor. Move. Now." "Sorry. Boss's orders." Jae-Sung didn't hesitate. He moved like lightning, taking down the first man with a blow to the throat. Sung-ho and the guards joined in. The fight was brutal and quick. When Jae-Sung burst through the front door, he found Farida on the couch, pale and sweating, clutching her belly. "They're coming," she gasped. "Right now. We need to get you to a hospital." But another contraction hit, so strong that Farida cried out. There was no time. Jae-Sung called Dr. Chun. "We can't wait. She's delivering now. Then you need to get somewhere safe. A hospital. Anywhere with medical equipment. We're leaving for New York. My plane is fueled and ready." They had prepared for this possibility. A safe house in New York. A private doctor. A place where Sang-woo couldn't reach them. The flight was a nightmare. Farida labored through contractions while Jae-Sung held her hand, helpless and terrified. Sung-ho piloted the plane himself, pushing it to maximum speed. "I can't do this," Farida cried at one point. "It's too much." "Yes, you can. You're the strongest person I know. You escaped your father. You stood up to me. You survived attacks and threats and my entire crazy family. You can do this." She squeezed his hand so hard it hurt. "Don't leave me." "Never. I'm right here. Always." They landed in New York at midnight. An ambulance met them on the tarmac, rushing Farida to a private clinic where Dr. Chun and a full medical team waited. The delivery was hard, complicated. The first baby, a boy, came quickly, but the girl was breech, requiring an emergency procedure. Jae-Sung stayed by Farida's side through all of it, whispering encouragement, wiping her tears, refusing to leave even when the doctor suggested it. "I love you," he kept saying. "You're doing so good. Our babies are almost here. Just a little more." Finally, after 6 hours of labor, both babies were born. A boy and a girl, small but healthy, with strong lungs and perfect tiny fingers. The nurse placed them on Farida's chest. She looked down at their wrinkled faces and started crying. Jae-Sung leaned over all of them, his own cheeks wet with tears. "They're perfect," Farida whispered. "Just like their mother." He kissed her forehead, then each baby's head, overwhelmed by the love flooding through him. These 3 people were his entire world now. Nothing else mattered. Not power, not money, not family legacy. Just this. Just them. "What should we name them?" Farida asked. Jae-Sung looked at his son. "Jae. It means respect and talent. And our daughter? Nala. It means successful. Gift. A name from your homeland to honor where you came from." Farida smiled through her tears. Jae and Nala. Perfect. That night, Farida slept with the twins beside her in their hospital beds. Jae-Sung sat in a chair, watching them all, unable to look away. Sung-ho knocked softly and entered. Sang-woo knows where you are. Let him come. You're not worried? I'm terrified, but I'm also done running. This is our stand. Right here. If he wants a war, I'll give him one. But my family stays safe. Sung-ho nodded. Then I'm with you. Till the end. Thank you, brother. As dawn broke over New York, Jae-Sung made a decision. He would protect his family with everything he had. No more compromises. No more negotiations. He had fought for love, and he would keep fighting for as long as it took. Because the woman sleeping peacefully in that hospital bed, and the two tiny babies breathing beside her, were worth more than any empire. They were worth everything. 3 months after the twins were born, Farida stood in her new bakery in Portland, Oregon, watching the morning sun paint the walls golden. The smell of fresh bread filled the air. Her hands were dusted with flour, and for the first time in her entire life, she felt completely at peace. Mama's going to burn the croissants if she keeps daydreaming, Jae-Sung said from the doorway, Jae sleeping against his chest in a baby carrier. Farida laughed and pulled the pastries from the oven just in time. Where's Nala? Asleep in the back office with Sung-ho watching her. He's surprisingly good with babies. He's surprisingly soft for someone who used to be a bodyguard. Don't let him hear you say that. They had chosen Portland deliberately. It was far from Los Angeles and New York. Far from the mafia world that had tried to destroy them. The city was green and rainy and peaceful, full of people who minded their own business. Jae-Sung had started a legitimate security consulting firm, using his skills to protect people instead of threaten them. The business was growing faster than expected. Apparently, former mafia bosses made excellent security experts. And Farida had opened Sweet Freedom Bakery, fulfilling the dream she'd had since childhood. Every morning, she baked bread and pastries using recipes her mother had taught her. Every afternoon, locals filled her small shop, praising her food and becoming regulars. You are happy here, Jae-Sung observed, coming up behind her to wrap his free arm around her waist. I'm happy everywhere with you. But yes, this feels right. Like we finally found where we belong. Life had settled into a beautiful rhythm. They took turns with middle-of-the-night feedings. They laughed through diaper disasters and cried through teething pain. They learned to be parents together, making mistakes and celebrating tiny victories. Jae was calm and observant, always watching everything with serious dark eyes. Nala was fierce and demanding, letting everyone know exactly what she wanted. Both had Jae-Sung's dark hair and Farida's warm brown skin, a perfect blend of their parents. They're going to be trouble when they grow up, Farida said one night, watching them sleep in their cribs. Good. The world needs more troublemakers like their mother. But beneath their peaceful life, one question remained unanswered. They lived together, raised their children together, loved each other completely, but they weren't married. Jae-Sung wanted to ask properly, romantically, not because of a contract or convenience, but because Farida deserved to choose him freely. So one Saturday afternoon, he asked Sung-ho to watch the twins. He told Farida to dress casually and drove her to the Oregon coast. They walked along Cannon Beach as sunset painted the sky in oranges and pinks. The famous Haystack Rock rose from the ocean like a giant's hand. Waves crashed in rhythmic music. Seagulls called overhead. This is beautiful, Farida said, breathing in the salt air. You're beautiful. She turned to find him on one knee in the sand, a small velvet box in his hand. Farida, he began, his voice thick with emotion. The first time I saw you, you were cleaning up broken glass I'd made. You were invisible to everyone else, but I couldn't look away. Then you walked up to me in that bar and demanded what you wanted, and I knew my life was about to change forever. Tears already streamed down her face. You were supposed to be temporary, a business arrangement, but you became my best friend, my greatest love, the mother of my children. You saved me from a life that was slowly killing me. You showed me what real strength looks like, what real courage means. He opened the box. Inside was a simple gold band with a single diamond that caught the sunset light. I'm not asking because of duty or expectation. I'm asking because I want to spend every single day of the rest of my life making you happy. Will you marry me, Farida? Not because you have to, but because you want to. Farida dropped to her knees in the sand beside him, cupping his face in her hands. Yes. 1,000 times yes. I choose you, Jae-Sung. I choose this life we're building. I choose forever. He slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her deeply, the ocean roaring its approval behind them. When they finally pulled apart, both were crying and laughing. I love you, she said. I love you more. Impossible. They stayed on that beach until the stars came out, talking about their wedding, their future, the life they wanted to build for their children. Everything felt possible. Everything felt right. 2 weeks later, they married in their backyard under a simple arch decorated with flowers from Farida's garden. Only 20 people attended. Sung-ho stood as best man. The woman who ran the coffee shop next to Farida's bakery served as maid of honor. The twins, dressed in matching outfits, slept through the entire ceremony in their carriers. Farida wore a simple white dress that made her look like an angel. Jae-Sung wore a dark suit and couldn't stop smiling. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Jae-Sung kissed her like she was the only person in the world. Finally, he whispered against her lips. Finally, you're really mine. I was always yours. Now it's just official. The reception was small and joyful. They ate food from Farida's bakery and danced under string lights as the sun set. Sung-ho gave a toast that made everyone cry, talking about how Jae-Sung had been lost until Farida found him. As the evening wound down, Sung-ho pulled Jae-Sung aside. I have news. Sang-woo was arrested. Jae-Sung's entire body went tense. What happened? He got greedy. Started a drug operation without family approval. The DEA caught him with enough evidence to put him away for 20 years. And Jae-Sung. The family voted. They've officially released you from all obligations. You're free. Really free. For a moment, Jae-Sung couldn't breathe. The weight he'd carried for so long suddenly lifted. It's really over. It's really over. You won. You got out. You got everything you wanted. Jae-Sung looked across the yard to where Farida sat holding Nala, laughing at something their friend had said. His wife. His daughter. His son sleeping peacefully nearby. His new life. Yeah, he said softly. I really did. That night, after all the guests left and the twins were asleep, Farida and Jae-Sung Slow danced in their kitchen to music playing from his phone. She rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. His arms wrapped around her waist, holding her close. Tell me about our future, Farida said. What do you see? I see us growing old together, teaching our children to be brave and kind like their mother. Maybe having more babies if you want. Building businesses we're proud of. Traveling the world. Learning and growing and loving each other more every day. That sounds perfect. What do you see? Farida looked up at him. I see the man who saved me. The man I saved right back. I see lazy Sunday mornings and passionate Friday nights. I see scraped knees we'll kiss better and school plays we'll attend. I see us dancing in this kitchen when we're 70, still as in love as we are right now. Jae-Sung spun her slowly, making her laugh. You know what amazes me? A year ago, you walked into my life because you were desperate to escape. Now look at us. Now we're free. Really, truly free. Free to choose each other every single day. They kissed softly, tenderly, a promise renewed. Upstairs, one of the twins started crying. They both smiled against each other's lips. Your turn, Farida said. No, yours. How about we both go? So they climbed the stairs hand in hand, entering the nursery they painted together. Jae had woken up and was making small unhappy noises. Jae-Sung lifted him gently, rocking him back to sleep while humming a Korean lullaby his mother once sang to him. Farida checked on Nala, adjusting her blanket, marveling at her perfect tiny face. This was their family. Their beautiful, imperfect, absolutely perfect family. 3 months became 6. 6 became a year. The bakery expanded. The security business thrived. The twins grew strong and healthy, learning to crawl, then walk, then run. They spoke both English and Korean, learning 2 cultures belonging to both. Sometimes, late at night, Jae-Sung would wake up and watch Farida sleep, still unable to believe this was his life. That he got to keep this. That he had fought for love and won. And sometimes, early in the morning, Farida would wake first and study his face, remembering the scared girl who offered herself as a surrogate just to escape. Look how far she'd come. Look what she'd found. They had both been prisoners in different ways, both trapped by circumstances they couldn't control. But they'd freed each other, saved each other, loved each other into becoming the people they were always meant to be. On their first wedding anniversary, Jae-Sung surprised Farida with a trip back to Kenya. They brought the twins to see where their mother came from. Farida cried when she stepped onto Nairobi's soil, overwhelmed by memories and emotions. They visited her mother's grave, introduced her to her grandchildren, told her about the life Farida had built, the love she'd found, the freedom she claimed. She would be so proud of you, Jae-Sung said, holding Farida as she cried. I hope so. I hope she knows I made it, that I am happy. She knows. Wherever she is, she knows. They spent 2 weeks in Kenya, then returned to Portland, to their home, to their life. And every day, they chose each other again. Every day, they built their forever a little stronger. Years would pass. The children would grow. Challenges would come. But Farida and Jae-Sung had learned that love wasn't just a feeling. It was a choice, a daily decision to stand together, fight together, build together. And they would choose each other every single time. On a quiet Thursday evening, 5 years after they first met, Farida and Jae-Sung danced in their kitchen again. The twins were finally asleep after a long day. Music played softly. The dishwasher hummed in the background. Happy? Jae-Sung asked. Deliriously. Any regrets? Only that I didn't meet you sooner. He laughed and spun her one more time. We found each other exactly when we were supposed to. Not a moment too soon or too late. You're right. We needed to be broken first, so we could rebuild together. They swayed together as the song ended and a new one began, neither wanting to let go, neither needing anything more than this moment, this love, this life they fought so hard to create. Outside, Portland rain began to fall, gentle and steady. Inside, Farida and Jae-Sung held each other close, finally living the peaceful forever they'd always deserved. Their story had started with desperation and danger, with contracts and conditions. But it ended with something far more precious. It ended with love. Real, true, freely chosen love. And they lived happily, beautifully, imperfectly ever after. Did this story touch your heart? We want to hear from you. Drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and what you thought about Farida and Jae-Sung's incredible journey from a desperate deal to forever love. Did their courage inspire you? Which moment made you cry? What was your favorite part? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more emotional, passionate love stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a new story. And if you love this video, smash that like button and share it with someone who believes in the power of true love. Comment below. Team Farida and Jae-Sung forever if you're rooting for their happily ever after. We read every single comment, and your support means the world to us. See you in the next story.